Hello, this is Kara from Camena Tarot with something a little different today. Often in my daily postings, both on YouTube and Instagram, pardon my squeaky chair, often on those posts I have a daily post lately that I've been using a card as a poetry spark. But since receiving my Camena Tarot yesterday, which I've already done a flip-through video of, and an Arcana battle. This is a major Arcana-only deck by Laetitia Babier and Lou Benish. It was a Kickstarter that I just received yesterday. And in looking through it, there is an image, nudity alert right off the bat. Nudity alert, if for some reason that's something you don't want to see, turn off now, because it's part and parcel of this discussion. Or breast alert, I should say. One of the depictions in here got me thinking about word choice. And of course, as someone who is a writer and who has, I've spent my life, giving meaning to the words of others on stage, and then also writing myself and performing my own writing and giving lectures. Words are an important part of my life, and word choice and application of word choice. And it got me thinking about the Empress and the Emperor. It got me thinking about the words fecundity and virility, and how we use them, and the rabbit hole that my mind then went in ultimately led to, is the way that we use them the result of patriarchy? And that perhaps we really need to rethink the way we use the words. Although we would be fighting generations and centuries of the use of these words. So I'll start with, and so I want to look at the Emperor and the Empress. And this is, again, the Camena Tarot. And in this image of the Empress, we have an allusion with the many breasts, is an allusion to Artemis of Ephesus, who I will insert photo here from the, I think it's Greek temple. Greek, I don't know if it's Greek or Roman. I didn't look, I forgot to check that. Artemis is Diana in other systems, Greek and Roman systems. Artemis is equates to Diana, but specifically this depiction of Artemis of Ephesus, there was a specific temple there where this statue that has managed to mostly survive through the ages, although my understanding is that the image that I have shown is a recreation. I joked yesterday, I said, to me, this just looks uncomfortable, and it's hard enough to find a regular bra. There is a discussion about whether the lumps on that statue are actually all breasts. They could actually be, as Letitia notes in her book, because she's a magnificent historian, one of the offerings at this shrine for fertility were bull scrotum. So it could be that these are actually, that her breasts are covered and that she's holding a bunch of bull scrotum. In another source, I found that it could actually be gourds, because gourds were considered to be a great source of fertility, full of seeds as well. And full of seeds is what takes me to this concept. we talk about fecundity. And so I looked up the difference, fecundity and virility. Fecundity has to do with being ripe and capable of reproducing multiple times. Well, that's where I hit a hitch. Which one is capable of reproducing more? Men are fecund because of the multiplicity of wasted seed. Women have a much more limited capacity. So then we get into the sub connotations instead of the denotations of the word. Fecundity tends to also be used to mean ripe, ripe for the picking, ripe to pick, harvest, consume, and be done with. That's where I think fecundity is an aspect of the patriarchy. Virility is about power and strength and leadership. I personally don't know any woman who does not have power, strength, and leadership. I've noticed more recently that at times women are starting to be referred to as virile or having virility in some more recent literature, which I think would be accurate. I think that's a good use of the word. Contrastingly, I have never personally come across fecund being used to describe men, when clearly biologically full of seeds is this one. Ripe to distribute seeds would be another. This doesn't make it a little spicy in allusions here. So that was the mental rabbit hole that this deck sparked, and this is a wonderful testament to how getting a new deck and the imagery in the new deck, especially when it's a deck created by someone like Laetitia Barbier, who is so historically knowledgeable, and is also a writer and a researcher, then you get images that are quite full. We have here the eruption of the volcano and his imagery. And this, by the way, he is supposedly, this in the guidebook, this is referred to as the Emperor of Basalt. Basalt is cooled volcanic rock. So she is very much connecting him with the fire of volcanoes, and clearly connecting her with water here, even kind of water as a scarf or a veil. But also the pomegranates have many seeds. Well, any woman who's trying to have children later in life can tell you, we know that the seeds have a shelf life. And even if you're giving, like my grandmother had 10 children, time's up. That's a relatively limited number compared to what's possible for him. So first of all, I think I'm going to start intentionally, not that being fecund or virile are not really a part of my life in terms of describing people. However, I want to intentionally switch those words up and describe women. Think about describing women as virile more and describing men as fecund. Just a thought, because I do think it's this aspect of ripeness, use, and being done with that is the patriarchal reason that women are referred to as fecund and not men. So then I wanted to look up some images in some other decks as well, and I'll take this opportunity to cover her. This deck is the Journey to Enlightenment Tarot. It's one I haven't shown yet. But I love the brilliant, almost, quilt-like aspect of these images. And so in the course of these thoughts, then I was looking up the word choices associated with these cards. Now, of course, we have self-love, nurturing, and abundance, feminine energy, as well as strength and organizational skills to make new ideas happen. The mother of the pack, energy of abundance. This isn't always money. Self-acceptance, self-love, self-belief. Channel your feminine energy by nurturing yourself and those around you, encouraging others. So this is more about nurturing and self-love in this deck. And success and stability. Organizing, grabbing opportunities, taking charge. Organization and stability. Organizing your energy, setting boundaries. Buzzing organization. Self-discipline. Now let's just look at what's going on in the United States. Is this what we're seeing from the men in this country right now? The men in leadership? The majority of them? No. No. Yes, we're seeing a lot of women acquiesce to this, and that's a whole nother thing. Is why is it that some women will turn on other women to support men who are doing things that subjugate women? That's been vastly explored in both the book and the mini-series of The Handmaid's Tale. And it's an integral part of the conversation. But if we want to talk about, we often talk about the organizational skills of men. Who runs the home? Who's taking care of these 3 wild kids while even, in a traditional relationship, who's taking care of the 3 wild kids at home while he's in an office? This is organization. So again, we have the diminishing of organization of women. This isn't a new concept. I'm not discussing new concepts here. That the organization that women do is typically devalued, while the organization that men do is overvalued. Especially in a workplace, men are just as likely to be followers as they are to be leaders. They're to be foot soldiers, not leaders. And that's part of the problem we're seeing now politically, is that we're seeing a lot of foot soldiers for an insane leader. Because it gives them reflected power, and they're willing to do that. So again, now, just fecundity, virility. Because this is the basis of why I'm making this video. So I want to think about those 2 words. So even with nurturing, is that strength and power and ability to lead? Isn't that what nurturing is? Fecundity, ability to widely distribute your power, your authority. Isn't that fecund? And then another deck that I haven't showcased, but I think it's wonderful. Folkloric Forest Tarot. By Lennox Reese, I so admire her work. And I for this discussion, I love getting it away from people. The Maiden and the Guardian, renamed cards. Now, this takes us into a whole nother discussion about the Empress. A couple weeks ago, I was watching two people discuss their differences of opinion about, on a video. I think Vincent Petici was one of them, so it's an older video that's been around. Oh, yes, Cassia interviewing Vincent Petici. And they were discussing the High Priestess and the Empress, and which one was old and which one is young. And this goes beyond young. Maiden goes beyond young. So, capable of reproducing, but Maiden implies virginity as well. Guardian implies protection. That's almost more paternal for them to be a pair. And I want to pick out some of the words used there in the guidebook here for the Maiden. And I do like the way she has used words here because they definitely evoke other aspects. So here, the Maiden is connection, sanctuary, and compassion. She's an oak tree draped in shadows, standing like a modest monarch. Heavy branches and a trunk thick with tales older than history. Well, that description sounds like an older woman. Heavy branches, a trunk thick with history. That sounds like an older woman, but we don't usually associate with a maiden. Conduit of nature's generosity. Nurturing tendencies provide shelter and protect the wood's life, decay, and untamed beauty. Oaks are revered for their lifespan. So again, we've got older energy here. But again, the Empress is usually associated with pregnancy, which would give her a finite age. If you're thinking about how old is the Empress, she's in her productive years of having her childbearing years. The oak wood is used for crafting tools and weapons, is considered sacred, often used in rituals for protection, wisdom, and strength. So just by naming this the Maiden, and then that description of an older woman, that's a fascinating juxtaposition. And then the Guardian, structure, integrity, legacy. Pine trees stand as faithful guardians, towering, timeless, colossal pillars of ancient power. An empire ruled not by humanity, but by nature's own hand. Groves, families, hunters, and wanderers seeking refuge and sustenance. These trees are the guides of the forest. The pines mark boundaries between the divine and the mundane, the wild and the tamed. Scarred by years of relentless push, their bark acts as armor. Pine trees, especially their needles and sap, have been used as natural remedies and personal talismans or amulets. Pine resin, often called the tree's blood, was traditionally valued for its antibacterial properties and healing practices. And again, this is the folkloric forest, and this is why her decks speak to so many of us. They're so well written and researched. So, but we have this protection legacy. Well, is that any different from her? Isn't protection nurturing? As far as being capable to reproduce and produce seeds, that's both of them, oaks and pines. I think pines are a little more prolific, so that would make sense as the male. And women live longer, and oaks, I think, live longer. I don't know. I'll have to ask my brother. He was a forestry major. I will too. I'll ask him. So, fecund or virile? Fecund or virile? And I'll leave you with that question for the day. Thanks for going down this little verbal, semantic wormhole with me. Have a great day.